मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनः शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे.
To this
Hare
place, huh?
Krishna. So we are continuing our discussion from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto
So I
5.
think I work on the video.
We have to start the chapter 4th, the characteristics of Rishabdev. So far we have heard Parikshit Maharaj asked a question. How will these people of hellish planets will be saved? Oh, sorry. Oh, that was sorry. So in the beginning of this 5th canto, Parikshit Maharaj, uh, Maitreya Muni and Vidurji, they are having conversation. After Maitreya Muni describes the dynasty of Uttanpad, then he starts the dynasty of Priyavrat. And in the beginning, he described that Priyavrat, although he was detached, he was a brahmachari, but still he became a grihastha and entered family life. So Parikshit Maharaj, as he's hearing all this, he gets a question. How is it that Priyavrat entered family life, although he was a detached person? Shukdev Goswami describes that a liberated person is not affected by household life. And he starts the story of Priyavrat, how he created 7 islands, 7 oceans, became the second sun. Then his dynasty is described, his son Agnidra. Then Agnidra, he went to Pitriloka. Then his son is Nabhi, and Nabhi's son is Rishabdev. So we have to start the 5th chapter, fourth chapter, the wonderful characteristics of Rishabdev. Okay. So Rishabdev, he is the supreme of Lord's avatar, and as he is the avatar, he has all the auspicious bodily symptoms. Shukdev Goswami continues. Okay, so just some uh, correction. So 4th canto ended with the discussion of Maitreya and Vidur. Vidurji left. Maitreya Muni went to Haridwar. Vidurji came back to Hastinapur. And then Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami continues that I have described the dynasty of Uttanpad. Now I will describe the dynasty of Priya. So that's how it started. So Shukdev Goswami is continuing the narration. Yes, somebody can read the translation.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, as soon as the Lord was born as a son of Maharaj Nabhi, he manifested symptoms of the Supreme God, such as marks on the bottoms of his feet, flag, thunderbolt, etc. This son was equal to everyone, very peaceful. He could control his senses and his mind and possessing all opulence. He did not hanker for material enjoyment. Endowed with all these attributes, the son of Maharaj Nabhi became very more powerful day by day. Due to this, the citizens learned brahmanas, demigods, and ministers wanted Rishabdeva to be appointed ruler of the earth.
Okay. So in this 4th chapter, we'll hear Rishabdev, he begets 100 sons headed by Bharata. And Rishabdev, he was such a wonderful king. He satisfied the desires of all the citizens. Shukdev Goswami describes that Rishabdev, he manifested all the symptoms of Supreme Lord. As we know, in any great personality, there are 32 bodily symptoms. Panchadirgha, Panchasukshma, Saptarakta, Shadunnataha, Trirasva, Prithugambhiro, Dvatrimshan, Lakshano Mahan. It is from Chaitanya Charitamrit. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, this is described. 5 parts are raised, 5 are short, Panchadirgha, Panchasukshma, 5 are subtle, Saptaraktaha, 7 are reddish, 3 are broad, 3 are very small, 3 are grave. These are the symptoms of great personalities. So Rishabdev manifested all these wonderful qualities. He could control his senses and the mind. So Prabhupada in the purport he describes that if somebody claims to be an incarnation, we cannot accept anyone as incarnation. He should exhibit bodily symptoms like Supreme Lord or a great personality. So Rishabdev, Prabhupada writes, he was equal to everyone. He did not favor one person or neglect another. An incarnation of God must have 6 opulences. So Rishabdev had all these 6 opulences in full, and he manifested such wonderful qualities also. Now he named this avatar of the Lord as Rishabha. Rishabha means the best of all the human beings. Translation.
When the son of Maharaj Nabi became visible, he evinced all good qualities described by great poets, namely a well-built body with all the symptoms of Godhead, prowess, strength, beauty, name, fame, influence, and enthusiasm. When the father Maharaj Nabi saw all these qualities, he thought his son to be the best of human beings or the supreme being. Therefore, he gave him the name Rishabha.
Supreme Lord has unlimited qualities, and few of these qualities they are mentioned here. So Nabi named him Rishabha. Rishabha means, Prabhupada writes, he was supreme living being, Rishabha. Bharatarshabha, as Arjun is called as Bharatarshabha, the best among the Bharatas, best among the dynasty of Bharata. So Rishabha, he is the best among all human beings. Prabhupada writes, to accept someone as God, one must observe the symptoms of God in his body. If somebody claims that I am God, he should have at least bodily symptoms like Supreme Lord. Somebody came and started claiming, I am God. Oh, sorry, he said, my Guru is God. So Prabhupada asked him, so what makes you think that your Guru is God? So this person said, I was a drunkard and my Guru brought me out of this intoxication. Prabhupada said, then I am God 100 of times. Because all my disciples were like that only. I have helped all of them. That is not the qualification to be called as God. God should have all the bodily symptoms. He should be mentioned in scriptures. He should be acknowledged by other great personalities. Otherwise, you cannot call anybody as God. Prabhupada would very strongly say, today also we were listening while dressing. Prabhupada's class was going on while dressing. Prabhupada was saying, if somebody says he is God, you should accept him as dog. Prabhupada is very strong. So that's how we have to understand. No, we cannot accept anybody as avatar of God. He should be mentioned in scriptures. He should have bodily features. He should be acknowledged by other acharyas as God. So Nabhi, he was in Vatsalya Bhava. So he manifested his Vatsalya Rasa. Okay. And this Rishabdev was so powerful, so opulent, that even Indra became envious. Translation.
Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabdev. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bharatvarsh. At that time, the Supreme Lord Rishabdev, the master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own progress through Yogamaya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his one place, which was known as Ajanabha.
Okay, so Indra, he became envious and he stopped pouring rains. Rishabdev said, ठीक है आप नहीं करेंगे कोई बात नहीं. I am powerful enough. He started showering rains, and his own place is known as Ajanabha. Prabhupada writes, we find the word Bhagavan used twice in this verse. Both Indra and Rishabdev are described as Bhagavan. So here, Spardhamano Bhagavan, Indra Spardhamano Bhagavan. He is envious, he is Bhagavan, and Bhagavan Rishabdeva. So two Bhagavans are addressed here. Then Prabhupada writes sometimes Narada and Brahma are also addressed as Bhagavan, Lord Shiva is also addressed as Bhagavan. So who is addressed as Bhagavan? We have heard few times. If somebody is a very great personality, if somebody has Krishna in his heart, if somebody achieves the purpose of life, so that's how many occasions somebody can be called as Bhagavan. So Prabhupada writes, what is big thing for Rishabdev to shower rains? Because he is the master of all the Devtas. He is not dependent on King Indra to shower rains. He can supply water himself. He is Yagyapati, Prabhupada writes. Clouds and rainfall are under the management of Indra. But when Indra is neglectful, Supreme Lord himself takes the task. Consequently, there was rainfall, sufficient rainfall in the place called as Ajanabha. And then Prabhupada never leaves a chance to give the ultimate essence. Whenever this Yajna is mentioned, then Sankirtan Yajna has to come. Yajna Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedhasaha. Next verse, translation.
Due to getting a perfect son according to his desire, King Nabi was always overwhelmed with transcendental bliss and was very affectionate to his son. It was with ecstasy and flattering voice that he addressed him, my dear son, my darling. This mentality was brought about by Yogamaya, whereby he accepted Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, as his own son. Out of his supreme goodwill, Lord became his son and dealt with everyone as if he were an ordinary human being. Thus, King Nabi began to raise his transcendental son with great affection, and he was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, joy, and devotion.
So Nabhi, he was not in Mahamaya, he was in Yogamaya. So that's why under the influence of Yogamaya, he considered Lord Rishabha as his son. So the word used here is Maya Vilasita Matihi. Maya Vilasita Mati. That means this transcendental illusion was brought by Yogamaya, not by Mahamaya. So Nabi was thinking that he is my son. So he had Vatsalya Bhav. Prabhupada writes, Nabhi was under Yogamaya, transcendental illusion. So this is not ordinary illusion of Mahamaya. This is Yogamaya. All the Brajvasis, they are under Yogamaya. The atheists also don't accept Krishna as God, and Brajvasis also don't accept Krishna as God. But the difference is Brajvasis are under Yogamaya. It is to facilitate the pastimes of the Lord that Yogamaya makes Brajvasis forget the supremacy and opulence of Krishna, so that he can deal with them affectionately. If somebody says, maybe Krishna is God, he lifted Govardhan. So Nanda Maharaj says, what type of God he is? He speaks lies. When there is thunderbolt, he hides in Yashoda's sari. What type of God he is? So this happened many times when Krishna was a child, before Govardhan Leela. So that's how all these pastimes, they are under the influence of Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. Under the influence of Yoga Maya, Krishna would become puppet in the hands of the gopis. The gopis would say, Krishna, if you dance, we'll give you sweet. Krishna would dance. If you sing, we'll give you butter. And Krishna would sing. Gopi bhi stobito nrityat bhagavan balavat kvachit udgayati kvachan muktas tadvashodaru yantravat. He became puppet in their hands. Sometimes Nanda Maharaj would say, Krishna, please bring me that wooden stool. And Krishna was a small boy. He tries his best to push that. He's not able to. So he slaps his hands like this and says, ah, koi baat. I have strength. I'll get the stool. It is all to invoke the Vatsalya bhav of Nanda Maharaj. Vibharti kvachit agyapta pitha kodmana paduka bahukshepam chakurute swanam cha pritimavahan. So that's how Rishabdev, Nabhi is thinking Rishabdev to be his son. Prabhupada writes. These devotees could never think of their son as Supreme Lord, for such appreciation would hamper their relationship of paternal love. That's why when Kardam Muni, he begot Kapiladev, he went to Kapiladev and he said, Oh Lord, please give me permission, I want to go and do tapasya. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, what was the need? Because Kardam Muni was in Dasya Bhav. So for him to see the Lord as son, it was very difficult. Vatsalya Ras was not there. Dasya Bhav was there. So that's why he took permission and said, Oh my Lord, I want to go to forest. Here, Nabhi has Vatsalya Bhav. Okay, next verse.
King Nabi understood that his son Rishabdev was very popular among the citizens and among government officers and ministers. Understanding the popularity of his son, Maharaj Nabi enthroned him as the emperor of the world to give protection to the general populace in terms of Vedic religious systems. To do this, he entrusted him into the hands of learned Brahmanas who would guide him in administrating the government. Then Maharaj Nabi and his wife Meru Devi went to Badrika Ashram in the Himalaya mountain, where the king engaged himself very expertly in austerities and penances with great jubilation. In full samadhi, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is Krishna in his plenary expansions. By doing so, in course of time, Maharaj Nabi was elevated to the spiritual world known as Vaikuntha.
So in due course of time, Nabhi, he became detached. He made Rishabdev as the king because he was really popular because of his wonderful qualities and gentle nature. And then he went to Badrika Ashram, perfected his life. Prabhupada writes, when Maharaj Nabi saw that his son was popular with general populace, he chose to install him. In addition, he wanted to entrust his son into the hands of learned Brahmanas. This means a monarch is supposed to govern strictly according to principles under the guidance of learned Brahmanas. That was the Vedic culture. The Kshatriyas were not independent, whimsical. They would rule according to the instructions of the saintly Brahmanas. As the Yudhishthira Maharaj, he is described as Atha Bhishmoktam, Atha Achyutoktam. He was ruling his kingdom according to instructions of Bhishma and Lord Krishna. So that's how the kings of the past were. That's why they were called as Raj Rishis. Prabhupada writes, a Brahmana must perform the duty of a Brahman without cheating the public. It is not that one attains the name of Brahmana without qualifications. So Prabhupada writes about all the Varnashram. It is king's duty to see that everyone engages in occupational duty. In addition, retirement at the end of life is compulsory. So that's how all these wonderful kings, they renounce and go to forest. After hearing about so many kings in the third canto and fourth canto, that's why Vidur thought of one king who was still attached, and that was Dhritarashtra. So therefore, he went to give instructions to Dhritarashtra. Otherwise, in the Vedic life, renunciation, vanaprastha life was compulsory. So Maharaj Nabi, although he was king, he retired, went to Badrikashram, worshipped Naranarayan, performed austerities, and attained Vaikuntha. That is the way of Vedic life. One must stop the process of repeated birth and death and return home. Sridhar Swami says that Mahima means liberation in this life. Tam Mahimanam Avapa. This word used here in the verses. Tam Mahimanam Avapa. Mahimanam Avapa means he attained perfection of life while he was in this world. That means he was already liberated. It was not that he got liberated after death. Mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. Mukti means when one is situated in his swarupa as servant of the Lord. And when this situation is achieved, ihayasya harerdasya karmana manasagira nikhilashyapi avastasu jivan mukta. One becomes jivan mukta when one engages his body, mind, and words in service of the Lord. Prabhupada emphasizes on this jivan mukti. This mahima means in this life. We should act in such a way that in this life, after giving up the body, we will become liberated. Jivan Mukta. Viragavacharya states in Chandogya there are 8 symptoms of Jivan Mukta. The 8 symptoms of a liberated soul. The soul has these 8 symptoms. The first symptom is Apahat Papa. Apahat Pap means the soul is free from any sinful activity. All these 4 sinful activities, the soul is not engaged in. Second quality of a liberated soul is Vijara. That means he is not affected by old age, Vijara. Third is Vimrityu. He does not have to take another birth. He will not die again. Fourth is Vishoka. Because he is transcendental, he is callous to material distress and happiness. Fifth quality is Vijighatsa. Vijighatsa means he has no longer material desires. Sixth is Apipata. Apipata means he has no desire other than to engage in devotional service of Krishna. Seventh is Satyakam. Satyakam, whatever he desires, his desires are for Krishna. That is the Satyakam. That is only truthful desire. He does not want anyone else, anything else. And he is Satya Sankalpa also. Because he is Satyakam, he desires only Krishna. That is surely fulfilled by Krishna. Therefore, he is Satya Sankalpa. So these are the 8 qualities of soul, a liberated soul. So after describing this, 6th and 7th verses describe how the great sages would glorify Nabhi. Onu tat karma rajarshe nabhiranvacharet puman apatyatam agadyasya hari shuddhena karmana.
O Maharaja
Translation.
Parikshit, to glorify Maharaj Nabi, the old sages composed 2 verses. One of them is this: who can attain the perfection of Maharaja Nabi? Who can attain his activities? Because of his devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead agreed to become his son.
Who can describe the wonderful qualities of Nabhi? Apatyatam agadyasya. The Supreme Lord became the son of Nabhi. And Hari Shuddhena Karmana. Why? Because of his pure devotion. And Prabhupada writes, Shuddha Karma means devotional service. Shuddha Karma means doing everything for the welfare, for the pleasure of the Lord. That is Shuddha Karma. Next verse. Brahmanyanya kuto nabhir vipra. Okay, we'll decide this. Brahmanyanya kuto nabhe vipra mangala pujita yasya barishi agyesham darshayama surojasa
दर्शयामो सूर्यः
The second prayer is this: who is a better worshipper of Brahmanas than Maharaj Nagri, because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their full satisfaction. The Brahmanas, by their Brahmanical progress, showed Maharaj Navi the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana in person.
The first prayer is he is the father of the Lord, and second is he is a worshipper of Brahmanas. So there is no better worshipper of Brahmana than Nabhi. So that's how great Brahmana, that's how the great Nabhi was. He was the great king, and a great king means he is worshipper of Brahmanas for sure. And Prabhupada writes, the Brahmanas engaged as priests in sacrificial ceremony were not ordinary Brahmanas. They could bring Supreme Lord, so they were really powerful. And Nabi could see the Lord face to face. So therefore, these Brahmanas, they were very powerful. And then Prabhupada writes the main thing. Unless one is a Vaishnava, he cannot call the Supreme Lord. And Vaishnava means, Prabhupada again brings the basic principle. It does not require to take birth in a Brahmana family. It requires qualification. Shatkarma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharada avaishnava gurur nasyad vaishnava shwapacho guru. Even if somebody is born in a family of dog eaters, still he can become a Brahman. And he's more qualified than still he can become Vaishnava, and he can be more qualified than a Brahmana also. Prahlad Maharaj also said the same thing. Vipradu guna yutat aravindana bhapada ravinda vimukha swapacham varishtam manye tadarpita mano vachane hitartha pranam punati sakulam natburimana. Oh my Lord, what's the use of being a Brahmana if he is not able to please you? Because unless one is not a devotee of the Lord, a Brahmana cannot deliver himself. What to speak of his family? Pranam punati sakulam natu bhurimana. So only a Vaishnava can deliver the entire dynasty. Brahmanas, it is very difficult for them. And because these Brahmanas were the priests of Nabi, they were so powerful. Lord personally appeared. That means they were Vaishnava Brahmans. They were not ordinary Brahmans. So the word used here is Ojasa. Darshayam Ojasa. So Ojasa, although Prabhupada in the translation writes, by their Brahminical prowess, they could call Supreme Lord. But by Brahminical prowess, nobody can call Supreme Lord. And then Prabhupada writes in purport, Ojasa means by dint of devotional service. That's Chakravarti Thakur says. By the power of bhakti, they revealed the Lord to him. So it happens many times in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's translations and word-to-word translation and the purport. All three may be different sometimes. It happens. Translation, word-to-word translation, something else. Translation, some other words. Purport, some other commentary. So what Prabhupada does is, he tries to give a maximum mileage to his purports. Word-to-word translation from one Acharya, translation from another Acharya, and purport from another Acharya. So that's how Prabhupada is so compassionate. He tries to summarize everything. Okay. Next verse, translation. Now from 8 to 19 verses, Rishabdev's exemplary character and his sons will be described. Yes.
After Nabi Maharaja departed for Badrika Ashram, the Supreme Lord Rishabhadev understood that his kingdom was his field of activities. He therefore showed himself as an example and taught the duties of a householder by first accepting brahmacharya under the direction of spiritual masters. He also went to live at the spiritual master's place, Gurukula. After his education was finished, he gave gifts, Guru Dakshina, to his spiritual masters and then accepted the life of a householder. He took a wife named Jayanti and begot 100 sons who were as powerful and qualified as he himself. His wife Jayanti had been offered to him by Indra, the king of heaven. Rishabhadeva and Jayanti performed householder life in an exemplary way, carrying out ritualistic activities ordained by the Shruti and Smriti Shastra.
So Rishabdev's exemplary brahmachari life, then ideal grihastha life is described here. And he performed varnashram duties properly. He performed householder life in an exemplary way, according to Shruti and Smriti. So he practiced this varnashram system properly because apani achari prabhu shikhainu savare. Unless Lord follows varnashram, ordinary people will also not follow varnashram. Although a person who is practicing devotional service, he is beyond the rules of varnashrama. But unless one is a devotee, one has to follow all this. And if somebody is not a devotee, and if he is not following rules and regulations also, because Rishabdev is not doing it. So I am not a devotee also, I am not following varnashram also. So therefore, Rishabdev, he wants to set the basic minimum standards for all the citizens that this should be done. Even if you are not a devotee, this should be done. So that's why we'll see all the avatars of the Lord. They will follow all the varnashram principles. They'll do yajna. This will be described about Bharat Maharaj also. That Bharat Maharaj, it will come. One of the eldest son of Rishabdev is Bharat. It will be described about Bharat Maharaj also, the same thing. He performed yajnas for the pleasure of Indra, Chandra, Varuna. But when he was doing his yajna, he had this understanding that, oh, Indra, hands of the Lord. Chandra, Surya, they are the eyes of the Lord. So that's how all these great personalities, they follow the varnashram system to establish the standards. Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yadi hi aham navarteyam jatu karmanya tandritaha mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashah. If I will not do, nobody will do. Utsideyu rime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyamima praja. And I'll be the cause of Varna Sankara. So that's how Rishabdev, he followed all these principles of Varna Ashram. Prabhupada writes, although Rishabdev had nothing to learn from Gurukul, he went there just to teach people in general how to take education from right source. Even Lord Krishna went to Gurukul. He learned from Sandipani Muni because apani achari prabhu shikhaimu sabhare. Yad yad acharti shreshta tatta deve tarujana. So he is entering household life according to Smriti and Shruti to set an example that we have to follow the rules and regulations of scriptures. We cannot reject them. Otherwise, it will create just havoc in the society. Utpata eva kalpate. Okay. He remained as an ideal grihastha and taught his sons how to become perfect in spiritual life. Although he is the supreme of Lord, but just to teach his sons, who were not all liberated souls, some were Kshatriyas, some were Brahmanas, to set standards for them, he practiced all this. Next verse.
Of Rishabdeva's 100 sons, the eldest, named Bharata, was a great, exalted devotee qualified with the best attributes. In his honor, this planet has become known as Bharatvarsh.
भारत भूमि ते मनुष्य जन्म होइल जार जन्म सार्थक करी कर पर उपकार. Bharatvarsh, Prabhupada writes, it extends from Himalaya mountains to Cape Comorin. So Prabhupada writes this, however, we have seen that this Bharatvarsha is the southern part of Jambu Dvipa. This is not just limited to our Bhumandal also, our earth also. This is the greater Bharat. And Rishabdev was ruling this entire Bharatvarsha, not our India. Okay. Next verse.
Following Bharat, there were 99 other sons. Among these were 99 elderly sons named Kushavrata, Ilavrata, Brahmavrat, Malaya, Ketu, Bhadrasen, Indrasprak, Vidarbha, and
Okay.
Kikata.
So these are the 9 elderly sons. Out of the 100 sons of Rishabdev, we have seen some became Brahmanas, some became Kshatriyas, some became liberated beings. 9 became liberated beings, Navayogendras. 81 became Brahmanas, and the other 9 became the Kshatriyas. And that's how they are described here. The 9 Kshatriya sons are described. And Bharat is the head of all. So who are the liberated beings? So these 9 became the Kshatriyas. So now the Paramahamsas are described. The Navayogendras. Kavi Havi Antariksha.
Antariksha.
Prabuddha Pippalayanaha.
प्रबुद्धा पिपलायनः
Avirhotroth Drumila
आविर्होत्रथा द्रुमलेस्
Chamashkarbhajana. Wait a minute. Chamashkarbhajan
गर्भाजनः
Pashyamana Uparishtar Varnaishyamaha. So these 9 were Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pippalayan, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamas, and Karbhajan.
Navayogendras.
Their story will come in 11th canto. When these 9 Navayogendras, they'll meet Maharaj Nimi. And there the wonderful discussion goes on. So all these speak one answers of one questions, they give answer. Maharaj Nimi asked many questions, so all of them they give answer. So in their discussion only Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopa Angastra Parshadam Karbhajan Muni speaks this. That's how it will come. Okay. Next translation.
In addition to these sons were Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamas, and Karbhajan. These were all very exalted, advanced devotees and authorized preachers of Srimad Bhagvatam. These devotees were glorified due to their strong devotion to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they were very exalted. To satisfy the mind perfectly, I, Sukadeva Goswami, shall hereafter describe the characteristics of these 9 devotees when I discuss the conversation between Narad and...
minute. आप एक translation miss कर दिए क्या? I think you missed the 13th one. You are reading 14th.
Malya. Okay. Following Bharat.
13th translation. 13th translation.
13th translation. In addition to these 19 sons mentioned above, there were 81 younger sons, all born of Rishabdev and Jayanti. According to the order of their father, they become well-cultured, well-behaved, very pure in their activities, and expert in Vedic knowledge and performance of Vedic rituals. Thus, they all become perfectly qualified Brahmanas.
So 10 becomes Kshatriyas. Bharat is the eldest. Then other 9, they were described. Then apart from 10, 9 became Navayogendras. They became Mahabhagavat. They were so exalted. They were the authorized preachers of Bhagavatam. And now remaining 81, they became perfectly qualified Brahmanas. They were very well cultured, well behaved, very pure, expert in Vedic knowledge. So here Prabhupada writes, this shows that this Varna does not depend on birth. It depends on the qualities. Guna karma vibhagashaha. Because from one Kshatriya king, Rishabdev is a Kshatriya king. From him, Brahmanas are also coming, Kshatriyas are also coming, Paramhamsas are also there. So that's how birth is not the qualification. Okay. So now further qualities of Rishabdev are described. Now you can read the 14th verse. Or somebody can read.
Hare Krishna. Being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdev was fully independent because his form was spiritual, eternal, and full of transcendental bliss. He eternally had nothing to do with the four principles of material misery: birth, death, old age, and disease. Nor was he materially attached. He was always equipoised, and he saw everyone on the same level. He was unhappy to see others unhappy, and he was the well-wisher of all living entities. Although he was a perfect personality, the Supreme Personality of God, Supreme Lord and Controller of all, he nevertheless acted as if he was an ordinary conditional soul. Therefore, he strictly followed the principles of Varnashrama Dharma and acted accordingly. In due course of time, the principles of Varnashrama Dharma had become neglected. Therefore, though through his personal characteristics and the behavior, he taught the ignorant public how to perform duties within the Varnashrama Dharma. In this way, he regulated the general populace in householder life, enabling them to develop a religious and economic well-being and to attain reputation, sons and daughters, material pleasure, and finally eternal life. By his by his instructions, he showed how the people could remain householders and at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So that's how Bharat Maharaj, he had so many wonderful qualities. And primarily his activities were to set right standards for people in general. In due course of time, as Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, sa kale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. So the principles of Varnashram, principles of Dharma, they generally have to be upheld. If they're not upheld properly, then naturally they will go down. So therefore, Rishabdev, as the avatar of the Lord, he came and he establishing these principles again. Prabhupada writes, Varnashram is meant for imperfect conditioned souls so that they can be trained to get elevated to the principles of dharma, principles of devotion. Varnashram is itself not the highest goal. Varnashram helps one to attain the highest goal. The highest goal is Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Adhokshaje. Nate Vidu Swarth Gatim Hi Vishnu. If somebody is not understanding the highest goal is to please and serve Vishnu, then all the Varnashram system is worthless. Varnashram Acharvata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradhyate Pantha Nanyat Tattosha Karanam. The purpose of Varnashram is to serve Lord Vishnu. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, here Prabhupada clearly mentioned, but many times devotees question like Varnashram Dharma, Prabhupada said that my 50% work is pending. Whatever Prabhupada given is, whatever he has taught us or given us is more than sufficient for us. Still, people say 50% work is pending by stating the example of Varnashram Dharma. And here, Prabhupada's first line, it is very clear about that. It definitely it's become a secondary anga for bhakti that it will help. But whatever Prabhupada has given is as good as there is no need to hanker for establishing Varnashram Dharma. Like Varnashram Dharma established means everyone has to act as per their Varna. There is no marriages happening as per their Varna. There is nothing happening in the society as per these things. How is it impossible to have this Varnashram practice in Kali Yuga? Like a Brahmana has to work as a Brahmana, he has to beg, or all these principles of Shastrik. Is it possible to have Varnashram Dharma itself in Kali Yuga to practice? So this statement of Prabhupada is like my 50% work. How to understand this? Because many people quote this and they're trying to, discuss this topic about Varnashram Dharma.
$1 billion question Project Conway. Varnashram. Basic understanding why Srila Prabhupada said Varnashram, my 50% work is remaining, because as a compassionate Vaishnava, he wants the entire world to get benefited, directly or indirectly. So Prabhupada, he established the principles of pure devotional service, and many people became devotees. But Prabhupada was also thinking, he is an empowered acharya. He is not an ordinary person who is satisfied with small. Prabhupada would always say, my problem is I can't think small. So Prabhupada is a person who thinks big. And his broad vision is he wants to make entire world somehow or other closer to God. So directly, those people who have Sukriti, they will take to Bhakti. That is done. Prabhupada did that. But what about those who don't have Sukriti? Sukriti chahiye na Bhakti karne ke liye. Not everybody can practice Bhakti. What about them? They are now out of the scope of ISKCON. Uska kya karenge? So Prabhupada had this desire that at least everybody should, if you can't practice devotional life, at least live dharmic life. Don't follow irreligious, sinful life. So that was the mood behind Prabhupada saying 50% of the work is remaining, because most of the population is still not devotee. So at least if they are not devotee, they should live dharmic life. How much it is feasible to establish Vedic Varnashram, that is a question. Therefore, Prabhupada would say we have to establish Daiva Varnashram, where everybody is practicing devotional service or given a chance to practice bhakti. Daiva Varnashram, it is beyond the caste. Anybody can practice devotional service. That is Daiva Varnashram. और अभी सब लोग दैव वर्णाश्रम के लिए भी रेडी नहीं है, तो प्रभुपाद से ठीक है कुछ तो करो. So other than that, I cannot comment on all these topics because they are huge discussion topics. मतलब ISKCON में बड़ा बड़ा यहाँ पे लड़ाइयाँ हो रही हैं, इस पे बहुत कुछ हो रहा है कि भाई क्या बोले प्रभुपाद और क्यों बोले ऐसा. एक पूरा वर्णाश्रम मिनिस्ट्री है, दैव वर्णाश्रम मिनिस्ट्री है, and they have their very rigid points which are a topic of debate. One devotee was sharing that he attended one of the GBC meetings in which the Daiva Varnashram, this Varnashram ministry, was giving his presentation. So this devotee was telling that we have to establish Varnashram. This is must, because we are not qualified to practice pure devotional service. ऐसा वो डिवोटी बोल रहे हैं भरी सभा में. वहां पे सब बड़े बड़े लीडर्स बैठे हैं, बिकॉज आर वी प्योर डिवोटी? सो वी हैव टू, कौन बोलेगा मैं प्योर डिवोटी हूं? सो यू आर नॉट प्योर डिवोटी, राइट? सो वी हैव टू फॉलो वर्णाश्रम. Bhakti, pure bhakti is for pure devotees. Otherwise, you have to do Shraddha, you have to do all these things because Devarshi Bhuta Prinam Pitrinam Nakin Karo Nayam Rani Rajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam. Are you Sharanyam? Are you all surrendered? तो कौन बोलेगा मैं सरेंडर्ड हूं? तो मतलब फिर श्राद्ध करो, मतलब पूजा करो, यज्ञ करो, देवताओं की पूजा करो, पितरों की पूजा करो. So that's how, when things, they are not understood properly. We are not against Varnashram. But when the devotional principles are not understood properly, then there is a huge problem. If somebody says, देखो आप लोग तो शुद्ध भक्त नहीं है, तो आपको श्राद्ध करना पड़ेगा, आपको देवताओं की पूजा करनी पड़ेगी, पिंड दान करना पड़ेगा. So where are we going? We are we are mixing our faith, So because no devotee will say that I have surrendered completely, I am pure soul. So we have to understand what is purity, what is the meaning of pure bhakti. Sharanya means who is considered as surrendered soul. So all these principles we have discussed many times, I will not discuss it again. So मतलब ये सब बेसिक अपने भक्ति के प्रिंसिपल्स नहीं समझते हैं तो गड़बड़ हो जाती है. चलो, you want to establish varnashram, that is a different thing, but you are bringing down a person who is practicing pure bhakti and you are telling him to follow varnashram. That is wrong. Because varnashram is outright rejected by Mahaprabhu in the beginning only. Eho bahya. Varnashram acharvata purushena parapuman Vishnu aradhyate pantha nanyat tattosha karanam. Ramananda spoke that. Outright Mahaprabhu rejected Eho bahya. So we have to understand where is the limit of varnashram and from where pure devotion service begins. तो ये बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो होना चाहिए अपना. वर्णाश्रम कितना स्टैब्लिश होगा नहीं होगा, all the do's and don'ts and pros and cons, that we are not discussing. We should be very clear where we stand as practicing devotees. Where do we stand? What are we supposed to do? Because we are not in other category who are not having sukriti. We have the sukriti. We are practicing pure devotion. Problem is when devotees, they try to bring us from pure devotional platform to mixed devotional platform. That's where all the contaminations, all the deviations start. So that is what I can comment through. इसके अलावा तो बहुत सारा ये सब तो मुश्किल टॉपिक है बोलना, मतलब कैसे होगा वर्णाश्रम, क्या होगा. Okay.
Thank you, Bhakti.
Very good. So Rishabdev, why he did all that? Very similar verse. Yattat shirshyan Krishnayacharitam tattat anuvartate lokaha. Same Bhagavad Gita verse. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. Shirshnaya means great personalities. Whatever they do, anuvartate loka, common people, they follow. So Rishabdev, he wanted to establish ideal principles so that common people can at least live a sinless life. If you cannot practice devotional life, at least live dharmic life. That was the mood behind doing all these yajnas. Next verse. Translation.
Although
Lord Rishabdeva knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus, he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and Kshatriyas administer to the state through the Vaisyas and Sudras.
Rishabdev was the Supreme Lord himself. He knew everything. Again, to set standards, he followed the Brahmanas. Nobody is beyond the Brahmanas. Nobody is beyond the teachers. So he wanted to establish these principles. Therefore, he took instructions from the Brahmanas. Prabhupada writes, the Brahmanas would give advice according to Shastras, and all the other castes would follow. Men trained perfectly as Brahmanas should know all Vedic literature, and the benefit derived from this literature should be distributed to general populace. So that's how Rishabdev was working. Next verse.
Lord Rishabdev performed all kinds of sacrifices 100 times according to the instructions of Vedic literatures. Thus, he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first-class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who were all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu was worshipped and the prasad was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and the festivals were all successful.
Prabhupada brings out such wonderful points from every verse. You know, here what Prabhupada is elaborating on? The sacrifices were performed by priests who were all young and faithful. So Prabhupada picks up that point. Kaumaram acharet. Devotional service should be practiced from the beginning. Prabhupada writes, ritual should be performed by young men, even boys at a tender age, in order for the ritual to be performed successfully. That is amazing vision of Prabhupada. अच्छे से करना है तो young men से कराओ. Because they have all their intelligence intact. They are fresh in their learning. They are enthusiastic. So they should do all the yajnas. So Prabhupada focuses on that. From childhood, people should be raised in Vedic culture, especially in devotional life. Okay. So this is the mood of Prabhupada always. One reporter asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, why all your followers are young people? Prabhupada said, what is the age of education? We should teach a new education only to young people. We cannot teach an old dog a new trick. Prabhupada gave sannyas to Hridayan Swami Maharaj. So a reporter asked, well, isn't it that old people should take sannyas? In India, it is like this. Why are you giving sannyas to young people? And Prabhupada, in his regular style, he said, who is old? What is meant to be old? So this person, he had never heard this question. Who is old means what? Prabhupada said, old means who is about to die. Can you say I am older than you? I may live for 20 more years. You may die after 10 years. Who is young? Who is old? Can you say that you are not going to die before me? So he could not say anything. Prabhupada said, that's why we are giving sannyas now, okay? So Prabhupada was very strong on these terms. That devotional service should be taught in the beginning of life. Kaumaram acharet pragyo. And then Prabhupada mentions about all the demigods. Prasad was offered to demigods. Demigods were not offered bhoga. Bhoga is offered to the Lord and prasad is offered to demigods. So Prabhupada writes about that. All the devtas are the servants of the Lord. Shiva, Durga, Brahmaji, they are all servants of the Lord. So Prabhupada, Ekala Ishvara Krishna, Arasaba Bhritya. Okay, next verse, translation.
Is to possess anything that is like a will or the wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rushabdev ruled this planet of Bharatavarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asked for a will or this wish. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Hare Krishna.
That was the glory of Rishabdev's ruling. Nobody wanted anything. They were all completely satisfied. And that is the case with all the Kshatriya Rajarishis. It is described about Yudhishthir Maharaj when he wanted to Rajasuya Yajna. He had no sufficient wealth. So he sent all his brothers in 4 directions. Arjun went in northern direction in a place which was outside the kingdom of King Marutta. He saw gold and silver plates and ornaments just lying there on the ground. So he picked up all and brought it. So how these were lying there? So this Marutta, he was a great king. He performed so many yajnas and he gave such unlimited gold in charity to brahmanas. अब ये ब्राह्मण लोग क्या करेंगे? आजकल के ब्राह्मण नहीं है, बहुत समय के द्वारका द्वापर युग वाले हैं. So as these brahmanas were going to Himalayas to do their tapasya, they threw all the things on the way. That was the glory of these brahmanas. And interestingly, Prabhupada writes there that none of the citizens also brought these things back to their homes because they were all completely satisfied with whatever they had. That was the kingdom of Rajarishis. That was the kingdom of Yudhishthir. Kim te kama surasparha mukunda manaso dvija adijahrur mudam rakya shuddhitasya athetare. The opulence of Yudhishthir Maharaj was envied by even devtas. Kamam vavarsha parjanya sarva kam dhukam hi shishichu sma vrajan gavo payaso dhasvati muda. The earth was providing all the grains. The cows were giving milk without being milked. And Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was only thinking of serving Krishna. He had no desire for personal sense gratification. Apipala dharmaraja pitrivat ranjayan praja nispriha sarvakamebhyo Krishna padanusevaya. Nispriha, no personal desire. So he had no desire. And his kingdom was also the same. Everybody was satisfied in his kingdom. Similar case. So that is the kingdom of all the Rajarishis. When Rishabdev ruled, even common man did not want anything. No one ever asks for the will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-the-wisp means whatever is in the sky, it is illusory, the flowers in the sky. Because the citizens understood everything of this world is temporary. Why should we ask for temporary things? We have whatever is needed for us. Prabhupada in the purport describes. So what is will-o'-the-wisp? He says, in Bengali, there is a word ghoda dimba. Ghoda dimba means egg of a horse. Egg never lays, horse never lays egg. So ghoda dimba means it has no meaning. It is just a word. In Sanskrit, it is called Khe Pushpa, flower in the sky. Akash Pushpayate, Kaivalyam Narakayate, Tridashpur Akash Pushpayate. There is no flowers in the sky, so Ghoda Dimba, Khe Pushpa. Nobody asked for these things. So, in the reign of Rishabdev, people were so happy. They did not want anything material, because everything material was provided. Whatever is required, it was given by the king. They were happy. They did not want anything. Okay. Next verse.
Hare Krishna. Once while touring the world, Lord Rishabdev, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavar. There was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instruction of the Brahmanas there. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdev instructed his sons, although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified. He instructed them so that in future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus, he spoke as follows. Hare
So these
Krishna.
instructions of Rishabdev, they are very famous instructions. Prabhupada quotes them many, many times. So he wanted to teach the entire world, and the sons were just a nimitta, because they were already well behaved, devoted, qualified. There is no need for Rishabdev to instruct these sons. But as an ideal king, ideal father, he wanted to give instructions so that nobody can say बताया नहीं, हमको तो मालूम नहीं था, आप तो बताना चाहिए था. So that's why he is not giving any chance. He is teaching all these instructions. Next is wonderful instructions. Very famous. Rishabha Uvacha.
Rishabha Uvacha.
Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke.
Dehabhajam nrloke.
Kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujamye.
Kashtan kaman rate vibhujamye.
Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam.
Tato divyam putrikayena sattam.
Shuddhyed yasmad brahma saukhyam tvanantam.
Shuddhe brahma saukyam tvanantam.
Lord Rishabdev told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hawks that eat food. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position or devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever."
So first, Rishabdev describes that material enjoyment should not be practiced as the goal of life. If somebody has a human body, the goal of human life is not material enjoyment, but bhakti yoga. He wanted to establish bhakti yoga. So first he says, this human life is not for material enjoyment. Na ayam deha. This body, deha bhajam nriloke. If you have achieved this body as a human in the human society, Kashtan Kaman. This looks completely contradictory. They are oxymoron. Kaman means one which gives pleasure, the desires which give enjoyment, material enjoyment. This is Kashtan Kaman. ये कैसे हो सकता है? Kama gives pleasure. Kam doesn't give misery. But he says, Kashtan Kaman, people endeavor for Kashta. Because all the sense gratification. Which verse says this in Bhagavad Gita? Kashtan Kaman. Yes. Anyone remembers?
ये संस्पर्शजा भोगा प्रभु जी
ये ही संस्पर्शजा भोगा.
या भोगा दुख योनय एवते.
So the sense pleasures, they are always pregnant with misery. So therefore he says kashtan kaman, because kama is arahati. This kam is available even for Vaibhav, stool eating hog, Vaibhav. प्रभुपाद बहुत इनको अच्छे से रेस्पेक्ट देते हैं. हॉग्स, डॉग्स, कैमल्स, एसेस, सबका बहुत गुणगान किए प्रभुपाद जी. और पिग का तो बहुत सारे ही बोलते हैं. अच्छा अच्छा, अभी नहीं बोलूंगा मैं. Vaibhav ये. So it is stool eating hog. Therefore, O my friend, O my sons, tapo divyam putraka, O my sons, engage in divine austerity. Divya tapa hai. You understand the divya tapa? What is divya tapa? It is not ordinary material tapa. It is tapa of bhakti. That is divya tapa. Because yena, by practice of divya tapa, Sattvam Shuddhi, one's existence is purified, and Brahma Saukhyam Anantam, one attains eternal blissful life. That's the purport. That's the purpose of human form. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, it was mentioned in the previous chapter that Rishabdev gave instructions. Now, in order to establish Bhakti Yoga, he first says that material enjoyment should not be practiced as the goal of life. For a person with human body, one should not desire that which gives trouble. He says, seeing and touching women. ये तो पूरा ही contradictory example है. बाहर वाले लोग बोलेंगे ये क्या है, ये तो pleasure का स्रोत है. That which gives trouble. यही संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुख योनय एवते. Because these desires are available in pig body also. That's why Prahlad Maharaj tells his friends, Sukham Indriyakam Daitya Dehinam Dehayoginam Sarvatra Labhyate Daivad Yatha Dukkham Ayatnataha. Don't endeavor for sense gratification. It is available in all the species of life. Tat prayaso na kartavyo yatha ayu vayaparam. Don't endeavor. Kapil Dev also told this, that some similar verses there also he told to Devahuti that this body should not be used for sense gratification, because sense gratification is available for hogs also. Prabhupada writes, Chakravarti Thakur continues, he says, austerity is the distinguishing characteristic of human beings. However, the trees also perform austerity. They don't eat. They also tolerate the rains and sun. Therefore, such things are excluded by saying that the austerity should be related to the Lord. It should be divya tapa. Ordinary तप तो बहुत लोग करते हैं. अभी मुंबई में तो सब लोग तप ही कर रहे हैं. इतना गर्मी में तपस्या कर रहे हैं. इतना ट्रेन में जा रहे हैं, लोकल ट्रेन का भीड़ में, वो तपस्या ही है ना. तो somebody says तप तो हम भी करते हैं. This is divya tapa. That is tapa to please the Lord, not ordinary tapa for the livelihood in this world. Therefore, this word is used, divya tapa. Tapo divya. Prabhupada writes. In this verse, Rishabdev tells his sons about the importance of human life. Deha bhak. Nayam deho deha bhajam. Deha bhak means anyone who has material body, but a living entity who is awarded a human being must act differently from animals. Then Prabhupada writes how there are eating, sleeping, mating, depending, all that. So materialistic enjoyment should not be the goal for human being. In first canto Bhagvatam, second chapter, there is a verse which describes this. ट्रांसलेशन भी बोलता हूँ, आप श्लोक बोलिए कुछ. One should not get wealth to enjoy kama. If one gets wealth, he should use it for dharma. Anyone remembers the verse? इतना फेमस वर्स है.
धर्मस्य अपवर्गस्य
धर्मस्य.
अपवर्ग.
Okay, yes, that is one. Dharma should be practiced for apavarga, not for artha. Na artha arthayo. And if you get artha, don't indulge in kama. Na arthasya dharma ekantasya kamo labhaya. And the next verse also says the same thing. Kamasya na indriya priti labho jivet. So we should understand why we should live. That is the prime meaning of this verse. Why we are living. Either we eat to live or live to eat. दोनों में से क्या करते हैं हम लोग? So many times people, they live to enjoy. A devotee doesn't live to enjoy. He enjoys so that he can live properly. Enjoyment means basic sense gratification, which is unavoidable. Otherwise, if one overindulges, then one will be distracted. So therefore, one should not indulge in over sense gratification. Kashtan kaman. People really work hard. In this world full of competition, people are really working hard. Prabhupada writes, our principle is simple living, high thinking. That does not mean that I am a billionaire. How should I live simply? Abhi sab chhod chhad ke abhi kya I should distribute everything? No. Everybody has his level of simplicity. A beggar can also live simple, and a billionaire can also live simple. So according to his status, one should understand what is simplicity for my status of living. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. Everyone has his need. If the king lives in a jhopadpatti, then he can't rule the kingdom properly. He can't order the citizens with that, authority, because he has to live with a particular level of royalty that gives him authority. So we have to understand what is my level of status, my status in the social order, in the society, and work accordingly, live accordingly, not overindulging, not engaging in extravagant, sense gratification. That's how it is. Generally, people really work hard to get money. But the problem is either money leaves you or you leave money. It is like honeybee collecting not even drop, a particle of honey from every flower and puts in the honeycomb. And when the honeycomb is full, the beekeeper comes, drives away all the honeybees and takes the honey. People in the world, they are really working hard, collecting a particle of honey, that is money. Honey is sweeter than money. Sorry, money is sweeter than honey. In due course of time, death comes and everything is taken away. There's a nice verse in 4th Canto. Narad Muni is telling to Prachina Barihi. Pramattam kritya chintaya pravriddha lobham vishayeshu lalasa tvam apramattah sahasa vipadyase shulle lihano ahivantakam mukham. Pramattam. People are madly working for kama. Pravriddha lobha. लोभ इतना है Vishayeshu lalasa, desire for sense gratification is too much. And they are so madly into it. They don't understand when the time factor comes and strikes them. It is like a rat which is completely oblivious that a snake is about to pounce on him and eat him. Ahi shulle lihano ahi iva antakam. Oh my Lord, you in the form of time factor attacks a conditioned soul at the least expected moment. And everything is taken away. So that's how we have to understand. Prabhupada writes in one purport in 7th Canto. He says, human form of life is meant for liberation. This is 7:14:3-4. Unfortunately, due to influence of Kali Yuga, every day, I'll just show you verse here also. 7:14. Unfortunately, due to influence of Kali Yuga, every day the Grihasthas are working hard like asses. Early in the morning, ये अपना मुंबई का स्टोरी है. Early in the morning, they rise, travel even 100 miles away to earn bread. Especially in the Western countries, I have seen people awake at 5 o'clock. मतलब उधर भी इतना होता है. I didn't know this. उधर भी इतना travel करते हैं. और people in Calcutta and Bombay do this every day. मतलब प्रभुपाद के टाइम से चल रहा है. अभी भी लोग वो सूरत से आते हैं every day. Every day they come from Surat to Church Gate. 4 घंटा आते हैं, 4 घंटा जाते हैं. उसके बाद बीच में काम भी करते हैं 8 घंटा. बताइए, मतलब 8 और 8 16 घंटा तो हो गया उनका, खत्म, उसी में चला गया. फिर वो घर पहुंचेंगे रात को 12 बजे तक और थोड़ा कुछ खाएंगे, सो जाएंगे. अगेन 5 o'clock they are up because they have to catch a train. They have to reach by 9 o'clock. Prabhupada would call very in a funny way. He said, there are some children, they have their Sunday daddy. Sunday daddy मतलब क्या होते हैं? वो केवल संडे को ही दिखते हैं. बाकी दिन तो वो 5 बजे चले जाते हैं और बच्चा सोता रहता है 5 बजे, और रात को आते हैं तो बच्चा सो जाता है. तो संडे को मम्मी को पूछता है, मम्मी हु इज ही? बोलते हैं बेटा ही इज योर फादर. तो संडे डैडी है. So that's how people work hard. So Prabhupada quotes this verse here also. This kind of hard labor is described in Shastras as life of pigs and stool eaters. Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke kashtan kaman arhati vidbhujam. One must find time for hearing Bhagavatam and Gita. This is the Vedic culture. One should work 8 hours at most. Prabhupada यहाँ पे पूरा एकदम candid बोल रहे हैं. Work at the most 8 hours. And either in the afternoon or in the evening, a householder should associate with devotees to hear about Krishna, his activities, and thus be liberated from clutches of Maya. However, instead of finding time to hear about Krishna, the householders, after working hard, find time to go to a restaurant or a club, where instead of hearing about Krishna and his activities, they are pleased to hear about the political activities of the demons and non-devotees, enjoy sex, wine, meat, and waste their life. Okay, so that's how material life is condemned in Bhagavatam. We'll come back to our verse. Prabhupada writes, human life should accept voluntarily, human beings should voluntarily accept suffering in the form of austerities. We cannot live without austerity. We have to do some tapasya. Apart from our day-to-day life of tapasya, where we have to work hard in this summer season in Mumbai, or with all the colleagues who are not devotees, tapasya. We should try to find some ways where we can be conscious of God. That is the tapasya we have to do. Tapo divya, that is divya tapasya. After attaining the divine life, one can enjoy happiness eternally. Because everybody wants to be happy ultimately. It is significant in this verse that government and natural guardians, father, should educate subordinates and raise them to Krishna consciousness. Rishabdev would say in this series, Guru na sasyat, Twajano na sasyat, that verse will come in this series. It is the responsibility of the superiors, the guardians, to raise their subordinates to Krishna consciousness, to the platform of Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, it is a life of Shwa, Vidvaraha, Ushtra, and Kharai. Prabhupada writes about how people work hard. Again, same thing Prabhupada writes here also. Whole day they work, and in the night, Divacha Arthe Haya Rajan Kutumba Bharane Nava. How does it start? Whole day they work, and at the night they sleep or enjoy. Prabhupada writes about that here also. And then Prabhupada writes, we should engage in tapasya. That tapasya is to get out of the clutches of material nature. So although as a person who is working in this world, we have to take care of our family, we have to take care of our children, wife, husband. But the problem is, for outside people, their life is spouse-centered or job-centered, children-centered, but not Krishna-centered. That is what Prahlad Maharaj tells to his friends, or my friends, for a materialistic householder. The sweet words of his wife, they are very, very nectarian. They are like mantra. Katham priyaya anukampitaya sangam rahasyam ruchiramscha mantran. And when the children, they speak in broken, totally boli, that is so very captivating. Suretsu tat sneha shita shishunam kalaksharanam anurakta chittaha. So generally people are so very absorbed in taking care of their worldly responsibilities, they forget their vertical responsibility. Horizontal responsibility to kar lete hain, family, children, wife. But vertical responsibility means taking to Krishna consciousness. So that is how we have to understand these principles. Okay. So Prabhupada in this purport, he describes about all this. And therefore, one should not endeavor for such bodily pleasures. Okay, we'll continue next time. When many important verses, all important verses. In next verse, Prabhupada, Rishabdev says, from this human body, one can gain deliverance or fall down. How? Depends on how you associate with. That we'll discuss next time. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Vancha
Srila Prabhupada ki
kalpataru
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Vancha kalpataru Vishnupasin Vivek Pradana Pavane
हरे
Vaishnave
दंडवत
Dodam.
प्रणाम
Prabhupada ki Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna.
दंडवत प्रणाम हरे